Hello everybody. So this is the book we are doing for those people who are on Facebook. It's the Vortex book by Esther and Jerry Hicks. Hi Tamika, Heather, good to see you. All right. Wow. Soon we'll be halfway through. All right. We are starting today on page 94. At the bottom of the page, the heading is, "But what about when others choose our mates for us?" Ooh, this is very near and dear to my heart. Because, well, maybe things are not the same anymore, but when I got married, my parents chose for me. So, and I know that still happens for a lot of people. And I was having a chuckle this morning when I read through this. Just a few minutes ago, I was reading through this in preparation, and I was having a chuckle because it reminded me of when I was a little girl, and I used to go and visit my grandmother with my mother, or my grandparents, but really more my grandmother than my grandfather. And there used to be this old lady who would come and visit my grandmother. She was a very strange lady, and I remember I didn't like her very much. And that's the only thing I remember about her, that I didn't like her very much. And she used to come and sit on the ground. I remember my grandmother sitting on a chair, and this woman would come and sit on the ground in front of my grandmother. And she was the dating app. She was the equivalent of what is a dating app. And then she would go into this bag that she had, and she would bring out a collection of pictures of various guys, and she would one by one hand them over to my grandmother, because my aunt wasn't married at the time. My mother's younger sister was not married at the time. And so this is the way she used to bring these pictures and show them to my grandmother. And then she would tell my grandmother about each one of the boys. You know, she would say how old they are, which family they belong to, where they live, what does the boy... She would go through a resume of each one of these prospective guys. So I remember that, and this morning, I haven't thought about it in so many years, and this morning when I was reading this, I was like, oh my God, dating apps used to be like that. And now we have a computer program. So like many other professions, that profession has been replaced. And I remember every time that woman came around, my grandmother used to give her some money. You know, that was your subscription fee. and then this woman, if my grandmother liked one of the pictures, then I think the next process used to be for the mothers to talk. So the mothers would talk. And then if the mothers got along, then the rest of the family got introduced. And still the boy and the girl were not introduced at this stage. You know, it was just the families. And after the families approved of each other, then the boy and the girl were introduced to each other. Yeah, very interesting. So I was thinking about that, and then I was thinking how things were different when I got married. My parents still chose for me, but it was a little bit different. There was no old lady. No old lady in between. The go-between was gone. And I guess my mother was then the go-between. She took on the role. Anyway, interesting memories came up. But yeah, I was reading this and I was thinking, yeah, totally. Abraham has it spot on. So Jerry asked Abraham the question, "I'd also like to hear your comments on the cultural aspects of mating. There are many cultures where the parents or the adults in the communities choose the mates for their children. Whereas in our culture, we believe more in romantic love, where we fall in love with someone and choose our mates because we have fallen in love with them. Abraham says, of course it feels better and therefore feels right to you because you're making the choice. But then Abraham goes on from there to explain that you really are making the choice not the way you think you're making the choice, but you're making a vibrational choice. Because you have beliefs and you have ways of thinking, and those beliefs and ways of thinking are what actually bring you the people that you end up meeting. Hi Rochelle, good to see you. Yolanda, Tamika, Heather, good to see you guys. So, it does not have to be you think that you are selecting a person, but the question to answer is, how did that person show up? And that person showed up in your life because of the way you were vibrating. And a lot of times people will just settle for, and they call that making compromises. They call that making compromises. I remember having this conversation because when I was getting married, I remember having this conversation with my mother saying, I don't like this guy and there's nothing common between us. I don't think we should get married. And my mother said, well, but there's this good about him and there's this good about him and there's this good about him. So you should make a compromise. Now, looking back on that conversation, I can see where things went wrong because I was focused on what was missing instead of being focused on what was there. So I was pushing against, saying, this is not there and I want this and I want this and I want this, and this person doesn't have those characteristics. And my mother was focused on, yeah, but there are all these, and so compromise. But compromise never works well. You should never compromise. You should give up the need for compromise by accepting the way things are. Compromise means I don't like it, but I'm going to do it. And I remember once I was listening to one of Abraham's clips where they were talking about someone who did not want to ride a horse, but got on the horse and then fell and broke their neck. And Abraham's thing was, well, don't get on the horse if you're scared of the horse. You should never get on the horse. First deal with the fear, then get on the horse. And so in my case, I should have dealt with the issues that I saw, or I should not have proceeded. But I didn't have a choice in that. I wasn't given a choice in that not proceeding bit. But the thing is, had I known how law of attraction works, and had I taken the time to let go the things that were missing and just focus on the good stuff, then things would have worked out well. Because that's law of attraction. And in fact, the fact that the thing that goes wrong in cultures like mine, where this selection process happens, is that there's a fear. There's a fear. The fear comes from, oh, I don't have the opportunity to choose, and what if the wrong choice is made on my behalf? I'm the one who has to live with that choice. Right? So when you have that fear going on in the background, how are you going to attract? You're only going to attract those people who don't match what you want, because you're in a place of fear. You see? And there were many reasons why I was in a place of fear. I knew my mother knows me really well, but I knew that my mother is more open to making compromises than I am. Because the thing is, my mother made a compromise and it didn't go well. She was always unhappy. So I was like, but wait a second, you're doing to me what happened to you, and you spent your whole life unhappy, so why are you doing that to me? You know, I don't want to go through life like you. And so you see how I was in a place of fear and I was negative. So of course, all the options that were going to show up were going to be the ones that didn't match up to what I wanted. So now I can see that, but I didn't see that at that time. At that time, I held my mother completely responsible for the mess. All right. So Abraham says, even though you live in a free society where you think you have freedom of choice, but you are very much bound by the beliefs of your society and your culture and your church and, you know, and your friends and your, you know, whatever. Those are your guiding rules. And even though you live in a free country, but you're still not really free. You're bound by those things, by your belief systems. What will people say? Right? I mean, think about it. It's not so long ago that there was a barrier between African Americans and not. So you couldn't even sit at the same table together. So can you imagine two people wanting to get married who belong to two different groups? Right? I mean, they were taking on a lot to do that. And that's not so long ago. That's very, very close up history. So, what had to happen? Look at where belief systems are now. We, as a society, as a culture, we completely let that go. Right? We completely let that go. And that's how come it has changed now. Like, it warms my heart. It warmed my heart when I first came to Canada and I saw how multicultural Canada is. And there are intermarriages, different ethnic groups getting married. It's wonderful. Because there seem to be no social barriers. Well, there still are in some families and some groups, but by and large, it's more open. And then, you see, here's the thing, human tendency, for contrast, now we have another situation that happened. And that is this whole LGBTQ thing. Now that became an issue, right? So it's like we always find a way to create contrast for ourselves. So now there are so many people who sort of stay in the closet because they would not dare to marry outside the wishes of their culture, even though they want to. And in the old days, like if you read if you read any kind of Victorian literature, you find that they would get married to keep up appearances and then have their separate lives because they didn't really subscribe to the culture that they were surrounded by. So I think this kind of thing always happens, and it just depends on what people are attracting. It's attraction, as Abraham says. So then Abraham says, there is an even more important thing we would like you to consider, and that is you're not making your choices with your words, but instead with your vibrational offering. And so sometimes, without realizing it, you're actually choosing the exact opposite of what you really want. Because more you talk about what you don't want, then that's what you end up getting. Right? And so people choose unpleasant partners because their chronic attention to what they do not want, or their chronic attention to the absence of what they do want. In other words, a person who often feels lonely is a person choosing the absence of something very much wanted. Choosing the absence, meaning putting your attention on the absence of something that you want, will bring you more of the absence of it instead of the having of it. Because it is law of attraction. I'm reading from page 95, the last paragraph under that heading. So then the next question Jerry asks Abraham is, so how would you recommend that someone find the perfect mate? Isn't that the $1 million question here, right? Or multi-million-dollar question, right? How would you recommend that someone find the perfect mate? So Abraham says, be the perfect mate. First, you become that person that you're looking for. Because guess what? Birds of a feather flock together. People of the same vibration congregate. Right? People of same vibration congregate. So, in other words, you must consistently emit a vibrational signal that matches the mate you desire. So, then Abraham says, the not so perfect relationships that you observed or lived have given you wonderful opportunities to decide what it is that you really want. Every time you observe a relationship that's not working, you are giving birth to a desire for what you want to see in a relationship. And that's really important. And so then Abraham says, now all you have to do is to think about those wanted characteristics instead of feeling fear that you'll attract someone who doesn't have these things, who doesn't have these characteristics. You see, I've coached people who, when going on a date, remind themselves of what they're looking for, and then they check off the things that the person has and the person does not have. Now that's splitting your vibration up. And the result of a split vibration will not take you to where you want to go. When you point out what you don't like in relationships, and Abraham says, even when you remember events from past relationships or movies that you watch, when you watch people who are mistreating one another, you are training your vibration away from your desired relationship, because it's about attention, not about desire. Your desires are always valid. Any type of relationship that you desire is valid and it is given, but it will not come unless you're paying attention to what you want. When you start paying attention to what you do not want, then what you want cannot come. Right? And so that's where mainly the problem is that people spend too much time. It does not happen to me anymore because I've moved to a different place, but I remember the time when friends getting together would talk about all the unpleasant things that were going on in their marriages or in their relationships. Seriously, how many of you are familiar with the girls' night out together, where you get together to bitch with your girlfriends? You don't. Well, you're unusual, Deborah. But way back when, in my 20s and my 30s, my friends would come and share what was going on in their love lives, whether with their spouses or with their dates, and you know, it was like an open discussion, and everyone was pitching in with advice. This is how you handle this situation. And what happens when you're doing that? You are making the problem bigger. Because it's like bringing the problem in front of a tribunal, and now everyone in that tribunal, which is all your girlfriends, are focused on that problem. And everyone's giving you all sorts of different advice on how to handle things. That's not the way to get good results, as I now know. So, but the point is, if you are paying attention, the real point I want to make here is, if you are paying too much attention to what someone else is going through, what a friend is going through, or even a movie that you've seen, that, you know, someone is going through those experiences, you are activating those vibrations in your life. And that's a problem. I used to absolutely love what is popularly known as an art movie. Anyone else? You know, all the Oscar-winning movies where the hero has a sad, sad story that sometimes end happily and other times does not still end happily. It's just one big shit show that ends up in more crap, right? Those art movies where their acting is so realistic and their depiction of emotion is so over the top. Those art movies, I don't watch that anymore. My criteria for selecting movies is if they were not nominated for the Oscars, I will watch them. Because I don't want to see that kind of realistic depiction of emotion, because they are so good. Storytellers are so good at getting you to get on board on that train, the misery train, and ride it all the way through. And then maybe there's some glimmer of hope, right? You're hanging on to the seats of your pants, hoping that there's hope. And it's activating a negative vibration. Now, I would much rather not watch a movie like that than to watch a movie like that and have to clean up my vibration. You see? Because if you don't clean it up, then it's hanging there. So if you make a choice to go and watch that movie, then you've got to clean up your vibration. It sometimes can take a lot of work. Those are the times when you watch a movie and you can't sleep after that. Right? Or you're scared to go out in the dark after that. Or you start looking over your shoulder because you watched a movie. Right? So why put yourself in a situation like that where you now have to do extra emotional cleaning work so that you can go back up the emotional scale? Why come down the emotional scale? Why go for that ride? Just stay away from that ride. Much easier. But if you do happen to go for that ride, then do something to clean it up. I used to be such a lover of Indian cinema, Bollywood, and I don't watch it anymore. I don't watch them anymore. I watch all the songs because I love the songs and the dances, but I don't watch the stories anymore because it's always the same story. It's misery, 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 misery until something good happens, right? And so, yeah, I don't care for that anymore. But there was a time where we used to have a family night watching a movie together. We don't do that now. You see, here's the thing. Either you put yourself in a mind frame that says, I'm going to watch something and this is not real. It's fantasy. So you can go and watch Lord of the Rings, for example, because it's complete fantasy. There's no realism involved. So when you come out of it, you let it go because it's not real. But when you watch the plight of an African American who is being harassed and bullied and mistreated, it's too real. It seems too real. And then there are also stories that they tell us these are real stories. Now it's even more real than real. Right? So, if you are going to do that to yourself, then remember you have to clean it up. Heather is saying this may be a larger topic to cover, but what about those of us who write those types of books for a living? Fiction, thriller, suspense, etc. Yeah, well, when you write something, you are obviously staying in the vibration of it for a much longer time. So it's about joy. And I mean, I don't know too many authors' lives in that much detail, but why not do a human experiment and go look at the actual lives of people who write those kinds of things? And they might have wealth, but do they have abundance? Because wealth and abundance are two very different things. Wealth is what you've accumulated. Abundance is the joy, the feeling, the having of not just the wealth, but the relationship, the health, and everything else that goes with it, right? So, as if somebody is really getting into the vibration of a messy situation and then not doing anything to clean up that vibration, then that is an issue. They might be really, really fabulous at their craft, but it is a law of attraction. It is law. It is law. So unless you are purposefully cleaning up your vibration, you cannot write with emotion without feeling the emotion. Because the author, I am an author, and I will tell you, if you are writing so that the other person can feel the emotion of the scene that you are showing them through your writing, you're feeling that emotion when you're writing it. So you've got to clean it up. And it is very possible that there are authors who clean it up. They just naturally have this instinct of when they leave their whatever laptop, if they're using one to write, or if they're using actual longhand writing, that when they leave their writing table, that they are not carrying that in their heads all day and thinking it over and over and over again, which a lot of times they are. They are saying, okay, should this plot go in this direction or this direction or this direction? Well, then you do have to do something to clean it up, right? And maybe some of them have, because I mean, law of attraction is not supposed to be unusual. Law of attraction is supposed to be natural to us. So perhaps there are authors out there who do have a process of cleaning up their vibration. It can be as easy as, okay, I'm done writing for the day. Now I'm going to go for a swim or a walk in the forest, or, you know, I'm just going to clear my head and let everything go. And that's it, right? You let everything go. It's a decision. So I would just say that any author who does the vibrational work to clean up their vibration, that's fine. But you're taking on a lot more additional work on yourself. But if you like doing it, then sure, that counts for something, doesn't it? Because at the end of the day, we have to do things that we like doing. So if you like writing that kind of fiction, sure, write it and then clean up. Make sure there's no negative energy hanging on to you because of that practice. Sure, absolutely, Claudia. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Awesome. All right, let's keep moving on. So then the next thing Abraham is saying before we close out this topic is, you cannot get the relationship of your dreams when your chronic thoughts about relationships feel lonely or angry or worried or disappointed. So even, and I'm just going to go back and say, even when it's movies that you're watching, if you're watching movies that create fear or worry about your situation, then you should not be watching those. Right? I mean, if you're watching crime thrillers where people like you who are living life like you are the victims of crime, don't watch those movies. Don't do that. Right? Okay, awesome. So let's keep moving on. The next topic is wanting a mate or needing a mate. So this is a question from an Abraham Hicks workshop that is included here. That's what the note says. And the questioner says, so it seems like my wanting someone pushes them away, but my not wanting them brings them to me. Why does that happen? So Abraham answers, when you want someone, but the dominant thought within you is about the lack of that person. So when you want someone and they are not coming, that means that you want them, but your attention is on the opposite of it. Your attention is on the not having of them. So that's why your vibration keeps them away from you. And when you don't want someone, because you're thinking about the fact that you don't want them, then they're going to show up even more because you're pushing against them. It's just simply that's how law of attraction works. The unwanted person starts pursuing you because you are getting the essence of what you're thinking about, whether you want it or not. The essence. What is the essence? The essence of what you are thinking about. Not the intention. I go back to that video I have on my YouTube channel called The Universe Ignores Good Intentions. The universe does not care what your intention is. The universe will give you the sum total of where your attention is going. The entire Heart and Mind Alignment course is based on that philosophy that we need to train ourselves to put our attention where our intention is. Close the gap between intention and attention. All right. So then the same questioner is asking Abraham, is this similar to the distinction between wanting and needing? So Abraham says that when you want something, when you give birth to a desire, it always feels good. It's not until you start thinking about the lack side of things, or how difficult it will be to get what you want, or that you can't live without it, you must have it, then you take away the joy and you make it into a need. And when you make it into a need, now your focus is on the absence of it. Yes, Rochelle, it is true for actors as well. Absolutely. They actually feel and experience the pain. Yes, that is right. They do. In fact, the better the actor, the more they are getting into the feeling of the role that they are playing out. So, yes. And I remember Abraham having a conversation with an actress. Actually, she was on the cruise. So when I was on the cruise, I forget which cruise it was. Not the recent one, but in the past, when I was on an Abraham cruise, there was a girl who was part of the cruise ship staff. And she was an Abraham follower. And when she heard that Abraham was on board the cruise ship, she wanted to ask Abraham a question. And she did. She asked Abraham a question. And this is what she wanted to know. She wanted to know about getting into the feeling of the emotion and how that affects you. And yes, it does affect you. It does affect you, and then you have to do something to clean it up. All right. So then, where were we? So Abraham is saying the difference between wanting and needing is not just the speaking of different words. It's the vibration. It's the vibration that is attached to the words. Because you can offer words from anywhere on the emotional scale, right? You can use the word love and be at the bottom of the emotional scale. So then the vibration attached to the word love is not actually the vibration of love, right? An angry person can use the word love. Someone can say in anger, I love you, but there's no love in that right? Because if you're in a place of anger, your vibration is an angry vibration. There's no love in it. So yes, the words matter because the words help, are like reminders, right? If I'm using the word love and not feeling love, then that's a reminder to me that I need to shift my focus. So, but all Abraham is saying here is, words are important, but our vibrations are really important. It's the vibration that you're on, where you are on the emotional scale, that makes the difference ultimately. So, a desire or wanting always feels good. Need always feels bad because you are a vibrational match to the absence of your desire. So, telling is, are you telling yourself that you need something? It's okay to want things without needing them. It's when you say you need it and you can't live without it. Now your focus is on the absence of it. And if your focus is on the absence, then it cannot come. So now we are on page 97. Really, really good question. Is there a way of staying positive around lackful others? Oh my God, I've had this question come to me from so many people. Zara, I am so positive, but my husband, he's not at all positive. So how are we going to tackle this situation that we have? He's going to negate my vibration. I'm going to have to work harder. No, you're not. Because he's creating for himself, you're creating for you. And yes, you do have the ability to create for 10 people. You have the ability to create so much, so big, that you're creating for millions of people. People like Mother Teresa and Gandhi, they created for the masses. It came through them for the masses. Right? So, for sure, you can be an allower. You can be such a big, powerful allower that you compensate for other people's disallowing. After all, isn't that what Jesus did as a healer? He compensated for other people's not allowing their own well-being. That is how he was able to help them to allow their own cure. He didn't cure them. He helped them to allow their own cure, because in his presence they felt so much better that they let go of the problem. But nobody can affect a cure for anyone else, because each one of us does our own creating and our own allowing. Okay? So the questioner says, how can I remain positively focused when my mate is predominantly focused on lack and makes no effort to be positive? And it gets to me. It's hard not to also feel lack. And then Abraham says, of course it's easier to feel good when nobody around you is opposing you, opposing your vibration. It's much harder to be stable when someone is opposing you. It's like, imagine that you are walking a tightrope and you're perfectly balanced on this tightrope, right? You have your balance. You're able to maintain your balance. But then suddenly you have a 2-year-old come and grab you on one side. Now suddenly it's much harder for you to maintain your balance, right? Now you have to compensate for that. But you can. That's the whole point. You don't have to get toppled over. Yes, it's harder to maintain your balance, but you can. You can maintain your balance. Mothers do it all the time. Parents do it all the time with 2-year-olds pulling them in different directions. Right? We are carrying utensils. We are carrying food. We are carrying a baby. and there's another baby trying to, topple you over at the same time. You maintain your balance, right? You learn how to maintain your balance. You can maintain your balance. So, even if there is only one person who is with you, often whom you need to train, you could not train him or her sufficiently. And of course, there are many more persons than one to whom you are having an emotional response. We are having an emotional response to every person that we see. I had a negative emotional response to someone this morning. I did. I had to soothe myself. So Stella is, she's a Labradoodle, and Labradoodles have this thing where when they go to poo, they kind of go round and round in circles, like they're marking that spot. They go round and round in circles. And so Stella is going round and round in circles. And this man in a black truck pulls over just as she's settling in. And he says, "Oh, your dog's going to be dizzy." And I'm like, get lost. Because now Stella sees that person in the truck and he's talking to me. She gets all puppy excited. And she forgets that she's got a job to do. And I'm like, I'm late. Don't you know I have a VORTEX book study? I'm 6 minutes late. So I was upset with this person. And I had a negative emotional response to a complete stranger. And then I just had to laugh. I mean, what are you going to do? He's obviously never had a Labradoodle. So he does not know. I can't blame him for not knowing. Alright, so then I had to do the self-talk to let that go. And I don't know which one of my calls I was late for. I've forgotten now. But one of my calls this morning, I was 6 minutes late. And I was late because of that man. Because then Stella had to find another spot. Alright, enough said about Stella. Let me just check for... Yes, that's right, Heather. It sure does. Alright. So anyway, what I'm trying to say to you is something as simple as that. I noticed my emotional response to this man. And then I had to do the self-talk to say, he does not know. And it's okay if I'm a few minutes late. Doesn't matter if I'm a few minutes late. It's okay. People will wait for me. I remember which call it was. It was the Unlimited 365 call this morning. I was 6 minutes late. And I just had to soothe myself and tell myself, it's okay. People know I will show up when I show up. Right? And I mean, come on, give me some slack. This is my self-talk with myself. I'm saying, come on, Zara. I'm pretty sure people can give you some slack. You're always on time, 365 days a year, every day, every single day of the year. If you're late 1 or 2 days, it's not a big deal. Just let it go. And remember, you don't have to give any explanations. Right? So I had to do the self-talk, right? And then I had to tell myself, but it is so much more important to me that Stella should be comfortable, because it's not her fault that she can't go to the toilet inside the house. That's not her job. It's not her fault, right? But I had to do that self-talk. Because I don't let her go in the backyard. No, I don't. That does not happen. So I had to soothe myself. And you have to find ways to soothe So I'm telling you the story of someone I didn't know, but the same thing applies with people that you do know. Because the first thing we say is, you should know better. How could you do that or not do that? Right? Simple example is, you could have put that plate in the dishwasher. You should know better. Right? And then we just build this whole court case in our heads, right? There's this whole court case in your heads where this person is guilty of not putting the plate in the dishwasher, plus they also left their socks on the floor and they were whatever late or whatever, and then you just go through this whole list of things that they're guilty of. Instead of doing the opposite, which is letting it go. Letting it go. Just let it go. Because if you go down that whole long list of all the things that they're guilty of, you're making the problem bigger. More of it will show up. Whereas you want to make the problem smaller by giving them the benefit of the doubt. So this is the thing. Abraham says, when you do become adept at directing your thoughts to things that are pleasing, the unpleasing people or unpleasing aspects of those people will leave your experience. It is your attention to the unwanted that holds it in your experience. So the thing is, people will match you where you are on the emotional scale, or they will disappear and be replaced with other people. It's as simple as that. So if this is the emotional scale, and you're over here, you're going to meet people who are on this vibration. So all you have to do is, that's where all the ornery ones are, as Abraham says. They're all over here. So all you have to do is go to a different zip code. This is the zip code where all the ornery ones reside. You don't have to live in this zip code. Just get another address. Go up here. Now, they're nowhere near you. It's not their geography. Right? So you're going to have new neighbors. But it is very possible that some of these people will change their zip code with you and come and live in your new house. So those who are able to do so are most welcome. But if they're not able to do so, you just leave them behind. That's why you never stop doing the work when other people are not joining you. This is a problem we all have when we start this law of attraction journey. We all wish that our friends and lovers and parents and children would understand law of attraction. We wish that we could put it in a syringe and somehow give them an injection, right? We just wish that while they're sleeping, we give them a law of attraction haircut and they wake up in the morning and suddenly they're enlightened, right? We want it, but we can't let that stop us. We can want it for them, but we should not let it stop us. I'm not going to wait for you to be awakened and just sit there and fuss and worry that you're still not awake. I'm going to move on. I'm going to go do what I need to do. Right? I mean, just literally think about it. It's a beautiful, gorgeous day, and you want to be outside in the sun, and you have a friend who is still sleeping. So are you just going to sit around and watch them while they're sleeping, or are you going to go head outside? A lot of people will want to be so nice as to not go outside. And then there are those mavericks who say, see you later. Hi, Lauren, good to see you. Right? And so if that person wants to join you, you're not stopping them from coming out into the sunlight with you. You're just saying, come when you're ready. So you don't hold yourself back because someone else isn't ready to come. Right? So, many people disagree about about that when they first hear it, because they believe that negative things are in their lives because someone else is putting them there. Yeah. No, we all create for ourselves. And if we are getting negative, it's because we are thinking negative. We change our vibration. We don't have to worry about other people. And as far as abundance is concerned, you have the ability to allow for so many people, more than you. And that's the kind of abundance we want. We want so much abundance that we don't have to worry about whether or not anyone else is abundant, because here you go, I have so much, I can feed you all, I can provide for you all. Isn't that what you want to allow? That's what you want to allow. You don't want to be dependent on anyone else's ability to allow. Okay, so Abraham says, begin by trying to remember when you did easily feel good about this person. And if you cannot find that beginning place, then choose another topic altogether. It's the same thing that we've talked about over and over again. Either get off the subject or find a way to look at the subject through a positive lens. So that's exactly what Abraham is saying over here, is if you can't be positive about the person, then get off the topic. One of the most exciting things about beginning the process of deliberately focused thought is that the law of attraction will bring you evidence of your improved thought immediately. And while old patterns may be hard to break and you may slip back into those old patterns from time to time, the evidence of your effort will be undeniable to you. And the first evidence that shows up is in the way we feel. We just feel so different that I can say that for sure. If you ask me what did I do different and how did I get on this journey, is that I tried doing what Abraham said we should do, and then I stopped doing it. And then I tried again, and then I stopped doing it. Finally, I got to this awareness that said, I guess you should not stop doing it, because every time you do it, things go better for you. Right? So then a brief bedtime exercise that transforms relationships. So I'm going to read this part out. It's not very long and I don't want to dilute it. As you lie in your bed before sleeping, if you will think of good feeling things from your past or present, or even speculate into your future. Those of you who are on Zoom, can you tell where the 6 thinking choices came from? Let me read this again. As you lie in your bed before sleeping, if you will think of good feeling things from your past or present, or even speculate into your future. That's where the 6 thinking choices came from. I just put a structure on what Abraham is teaching us. That's all. You will set the tone of the vibration in which you will awaken in the morning. In the morning, when you first return to consciousness, try to remember what you were thinking about in the evening and make an effort to re-establish that positive trend of thought. This one small exercise will change the way everyone you meet responds to you in this new day. And as you do that night after night and then morning after morning, new patterns will emerge and your relationships will transform. All right, who knows what this process is called? Who can tell me what this process is called? We do it every single day in the 40-day workout. What is this process called? Yes, that's right, Lakshmi. Pre-paving. Yeah, that's what it is. It's pre-paving. All right, so I'm going to stop here and I'll just leave the floor open. We have a few minutes. I leave the floor open. If anyone has a question, I am more than happy to respond. So I don't see any questions on Facebook yet, but people on Facebook, if you have a question, go ahead, put it in the chat. And people on Zoom, Lena, did you have any questions? Oh, well, it's nice to see you. I hope you feel better soon.
I am. I'm on the mend.
Awesome. All right, Lakshmi. Any questions?
Just to clarify what you were talking about, in one of the questions that we did before, is there a way to stay positive around lackful others? Doesn't it mean that if our vibration is low, I mean, if our vibration had something lacking in it, that's why we have interacted with a lackful person? Doesn't that work that way as well? Like, otherwise
Yes.
we wouldn't have come in contact with them or
Yes.
not seen the aspect of that.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. But you see, here's the thing that happens is that people don't have that awareness until they discover law of attraction. And then once they understand law of attraction, now they're like, oh, I'm changing myself and becoming positive, but my spouse isn't. So what can I do about that? That's what that is about. Okay? It's like, I'm changing, but he or she is not changing. So what do I do because they're going to drag me down? No. Nobody can drag you down. You can maintain your own balance. You're welcome. Deborah, do you have any questions? No? Awesome. All right, let's check Facebook. No questions on Facebook? All right, guys, I'm going to close the call. Love you all lots. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you like, we will, I'll see you at 6 o'clock for the meditation call. Bye for now.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Recording stuff.
All right, everybody on Facebook, take care. And if you're joining me tonight for meditation, I will see you then. Bye for now.